The Arctic wind howled across the frozen wasteland as Dr. Raven Blackwood adjusted her instruments for the fifth time that hour. The readings couldn't be right. They simply couldn't be. Yet there they were. Energy signatures unlike anything she'd ever seen in her 15 years as a marine archaeologist, pulsing deep beneath the ice sheet. "Marcus, are you seeing this?" she called out to her research partner, who was hunched over his own equipment several meters away. The tall, dark-skinned man looked up from his tablet, his breath visible in the frigid air. "If you mean the impossible energy readings that suggest we're standing on top of something that shouldn't exist." "Yeah, I'm seeing it," Marcus Paddle replied, making his way carefully across the ice. His reputation as the world's leading expert in deep-sea anomalies had made him Raven's first choice for this expedition, and now she was glad she'd insisted on bringing him along. The massive research vessel Horizonte lay anchored a kilometer away, its lights barely visible through the swirling snow. They'd been tracking these energy signatures for weeks, following them across the Arctic Circle until they'd concentrated in this location. What had started as a routine survey for historical shipwrecks had turned into something far more intriguing. Raven brushed snow from her tablet's screen, studying the three-dimensional mapping of what lay beneath their feet. The structure was massive, at least 300 meters long, and unlike any submarine design in human history. Its hull appeared to be made of some unknown alloy that their scanners couldn't properly analyze. "We need to get down there," Raven said, her dark eyes gleaming with determination. "Whatever this is, it's not natural, and it's definitely not human." Marcus shook his head, but she could see the excitement in his expression. "The ice sheet here is over 30 meters thick. Even with our best equipment, it would take weeks to safely create an access shaft." "Then we better get started." Raven pulled out her satellite phone, her fingers flying over the keys despite the thick gloves she wore. "I'm calling in the heavy equipment." "And Marcus." She paused, looking up at her colleague. "We need to keep this quiet. If word gets out about what we found here, the site would be swarming with military and government teams within days." Marcus finished her thought. "Agreed. But we'll need help, specialized help." Over the next 72 hours, their small research team grew as carefully selected experts arrived via helicopter. Dr. Jasmine Wong, the world's foremost expert in experimental propulsion systems; Thomas Reeves, whose work in quantum mechanics had revolutionized our understanding of theoretical physics; and finally, Isabella Morales, whose breakthrough translations of ancient scripts had earned her both acclaim and controversy in archaeological circles. As the team assembled their equipment in the hastily constructed base camp, Raven couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The energy signatures had been growing stronger since they'd arrived, pulsing with an almost organic rhythm. "The ice is speaking to us," Isabella said one evening, her voice barely audible over the howling wind outside their main tent. The others looked up from their work, waiting for her to elaborate. "These patterns we're seeing in the energy readings, they're not random. They're structured, like a language." Raven moved to look over Isabella's shoulder at the data streaming across her screen. The patterns did seem to have a rhythm, a purpose. "Can you decode it?" Isabella shook her head slowly. "Not yet, but there's something familiar about it, something I've seen before in some of the oldest writing systems on Earth." The implications of that statement hung heavy in the air. Before anyone could respond, Marcus burst into the tent, his dark face flushed with excitement. "The drilling team just hit something," he announced breathlessly. "Something metal, and it's warm." The team rushed to don their cold weather gear, following Marcus out into the Arctic night. The powerful floodlights they'd set up around the drilling site cast long shadows across the ice. The drilling team stood back from the hole they'd created, their faces a mixture of awe and concern. Raven approached the edge carefully, pointing her powerful flashlight down into the darkness. The beam reflected off something smooth and metallic about 20 meters down. But what caught her attention wasn't the material itself. It was the strange symbols etched into its surface, glowing with a faint, bluish light. "Isabella," she called out, her voice tight with excitement. "I think you need to see this." As Isabella made her way forward, the symbols began to pulse more intensely, as if responding to their presence. The energy readings on their instruments spiked dramatically. "This changes everything," Raven whispered, more to herself than to the others. "Everything we thought we knew about human history, about our place in the universe." The wind seemed to grow stronger, whipping snow around them in a frenzy. But down in that hole, the mysterious vessel waited, its secrets preserved in the ice for who knew how long. And now, for better or worse, they were about to unlock them. Little did they know, they weren't just making the discovery of the century. They were about to uncover something that had been deliberately hidden, something that would challenge their understanding of not just history, but of reality itself. The descent into the ice shaft was eerily quiet, broken only by the mechanical whir of the winch system lowering Raven and Marcus into the depths. Their headlamps cast dancing shadows across the crystalline walls, creating an almost hypnotic effect. The temperature dropped noticeably with each meter they descended, despite their heated suits. Approaching the contact point, Marcus announced through their comms. Above them, the rest of the team monitored their vital signs and maintained constant communication. The metallic surface they'd discovered had only been the beginning. Preliminary scans suggested the structure extended far deeper into the ice than they'd initially thought. As they reached the 20-meter mark, Raven's breath caught in her throat. The mysterious vessel's hull stretched out beneath them, its surface a deep, iridescent material that seemed to shift colors under their lights. The glowing symbols they'd spotted from above were part of a larger pattern that flowed across the hull like liquid. "This material," Marcus muttered, running a specialized scanner across the surface. "It's not registering as any known element. The atomic structure is impossible." Raven pressed her gloved hand against the hull, and immediately felt a subtle vibration. The symbols nearest her hand pulsed brighter, their blue glow intensifying. "It's responding to touch," she reported, trying to keep her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Isabella, are you getting this?" Clear as day, Isabella's voice crackled through their comms. "The patterns are shifting in response to your presence. It's like the ship is reading you." The team had set up a sophisticated array of recording equipment around the shaft, documenting every moment of their historic descent. Dr. Wang's voice came next. "I'm picking up a change in the energy signatures. Whatever power source is running this thing, it's becoming more active." Raven moved her light across the hull, revealing what appeared to be a seam in the otherwise seamless surface. "I think I've found an access point. Marcus, help me clear the ice around this section." They worked methodically, using heated tools to carefully melt away the ice that had entombed the vessel for untold years. As they worked, the vibrations beneath their feet grew stronger, and the symbols pulsed with increasing frequency. "Anyone else getting a bad feeling about this?" Thomas's voice wavered slightly over the comms. "These energy readings are off the charts. We should consider pulling back until we understand what we're dealing with." Before Raven could respond, a deep resonance echoed through the ice shaft. The symbols on the hull flared brilliantly, and the seam they'd been working to expose began to move of its own accord. With a sound like crystal singing, a section of the hull simply dissolved, revealing a dark opening into the vessel's interior. "That's not possible," Marcus whispered, his scientific mind struggling to process what they'd just witnessed. "Matter can't just phase shift like that. The energy requirements alone would be—" "Clearly it can," Raven interrupted, already preparing to enter the opening. "Because we just watched it happen. Isabella, are you recording all this? Every second?" "But Raven, please be careful. We have no idea what kind of environment exists inside that structure." Their suits' sensors indicated the atmosphere within was surprisingly Earth-like, though significantly colder than even the surrounding ice. Raven took point, with Marcus following close behind, both of them recording everything with their equipment. The interior was unlike anything they could have imagined. The corridors seemed to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and flowing lines that defied conventional engineering. The walls themselves emitted a soft, ambient light that followed their movements as if the ship was aware of their presence. This architecture, Marcus marveled, running his scanners across every surface. It's not just advanced, it's evolved. The entire structure appears to be one interconnected system, more like a living organism than a vessel. They made their way deeper into the ship, discovering chambers filled with technology that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, showing star charts and diagrams that made little sense to their human minds. In one room, they found what appeared to be a control center. As they entered, the entire chamber hummed to life, displays materializing around them in three-dimensional space. Isabella's excited voice came through their comms. The symbols here, they're similar to fragments I've found in ancient sites across Earth. But these are complete, unchanged by time. Raven approached what seemed to be the central console, its surface rippling like liquid metal. "This implies something incredible," she said, her voice filled with awe. "This ship, it's not just alien. It suggests that whoever built it had contact with ancient human civilizations. Or they influenced those civilizations directly." Marcus finished her thought, the implication sending a chill down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Suddenly, the chamber's lighting shifted to a deep purple, and new symbols began racing across the displays. The vibrations they'd felt earlier intensified, and a low hum filled the air. Something was happening, something they hadn't triggered. "Raven, Marcus," Dr. Wong's urgent voice cut through their comms. "We're detecting a massive power surge from within the vessel. Whatever's happening in there, it's affecting our equipment up here." Before either of them could respond, a holographic figure materialized in the center of the chamber. It was humanoid but clearly not human, its form composed of shifting patterns of light that mirrored the symbols covering the ship's hull. When it spoke, the sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating in their bones. The language was unlike anything they'd ever heard, but somehow, impossibly, they could understand fragments of it. Words about guardians, about waiting, about a threat sealed away, and most disturbingly, about awakening. "Isabella," Raven called out, her voice urgent. "Tell me you're getting all this. We need to translate everything it's saying. Something tells me we're not just dealing with an abandoned alien vessel anymore." The holographic figure turned its attention directly to Raven, its form solidifying. The temperature in the chamber dropped dramatically as it spoke again, this time with crystal clarity. "The seals are weakening. The sleepers stir. You should not have come." The ship's vibrations grew stronger, and deep within its structure, something ancient began to move. The holographic figure's warning echoed through the chamber as chaos erupted around them. Emergency lights pulsed along the corridors, and the ship's vibrations intensified to an alarming degree. "We need to evacuate," Marcus shouted over the growing noise. "Whatever's happening, it's affecting the ice structure around us. The shaft could collapse." But Raven remained transfixed by the hologram, her scientific curiosity overriding her survival instinct. "Wait," she called out. "It's trying to tell us something more." The alien figure's form rippled, its light patterns shifting rapidly. "The prison weakens," it continued, its voice resonating through their bodies. "For millennia, we have stood guard. The cold ones must not rise again." Dr. Wong's panicked voice cut through their comms. "The energy readings are off the scale. The ice sheet is becoming unstable. Whatever's down there, it's affecting everything within a kilometer radius." The hologram raised its arm, pointing to a section of the chamber wall that slowly parted to reveal a massive viewport. Through it, they could see something moving in the depths below the ship, something enormous and dark, shifting beneath layers of ancient ice. "Oh God," Marcus whispered, his scientific detachment crumbling. "This isn't a submarine at all, is it? It's a watchtower, a guard post." The holographic guardian nodded solemnly. "We were stationed here when your kind still huddled in caves, watching, waiting. The cold ones slumber in the deep, dreaming their dark dreams. But now you have disturbed their rest. Isabella's voice crackled through their comms, tight with urgency. I'm cross-referencing these symbols with ancient texts. There are references to those who sleep in ice in dozens of prehistoric cultures, stories about beings that came before humanity, that were sealed away to protect the world. The ship shuddered violently, and deep cracks began spreading through the ice visible through the viewport. The holographic Guardian's form flickered, its voice becoming more urgent. The containment field fails. The cold ones gather strength. They must not awaken. The price would be too great. Raven's mind raced, processing the implications. This is why the ship still had power after all this time. It wasn't abandoned. It's been actively maintaining some kind of containment system. But what exactly is it containing? Marcus asked, though his expression suggested he feared the answer. The Guardian waved its arm, and the chamber filled with three-dimensional images, creatures of impossible geometry, beings that seemed to shift between states of matter, entities that hurt the mind to look upon directly. They came from the spaces between stars, the Guardian explained. They sought worlds to devour, to reshape in their image. Your planet was to be their next conquest, but we prevented it. We could not destroy them, but we could bind them, trap them in eternal sleep beneath the ice. Another violent tremor rocked the ship. Through the viewport, they could see massive shapes moving more distinctly now, pressing against their ancient prison. The containment field must be restored. The Guardian insisted. But our power fades. We require assistance. Race against time. The implications hit Raven like a physical blow. You need human help to maintain the containment. Why us? The Guardian's form stabilized, growing brighter. Your species has something we lack. Adaptability, creativity, the ability to find solutions where none seem to exist. We can provide the knowledge, but we need your understanding to implement it. Time was running out. The ice continued to crack, the ancient prison weakening with each passing moment. Above them, the research team reported growing seismic activity that threatened to collapse their exit shaft. Raven made her decision. Tell us what you need. What followed was a desperate race against time, human ingenuity merging with alien technology in ways never before imagined. The Guardian uploaded vast amounts of technical knowledge directly into their minds, a process that left both Raven and Marcus gasping with the intensity of it. Working together, they managed to reroute power from their surface equipment into the ship's ancient systems, creating a temporary boost to the failing containment field. Dr. Wong's expertise proved crucial in understanding how to integrate human technology with the alien systems. But it wasn't enough. The cold ones continued to stir, their movement causing tremors that threatened to shatter the ice shelf entirely. There is one last option, the Guardian announced, its voice heavy with significance. But it requires sacrifice. The plan was both brilliant and terrible. The ship itself could be converted into a new containment field generator, but doing so would require triggering a reaction that would sink it deeper into the ice, sealing it away perhaps forever. Anyone still aboard would be trapped in suspended animation, becoming part of the Eternal Watch. I'll do it, Raven said immediately, but Marcus grabbed her arm. We both will, he insisted. It'll take at least 2 people to initiate the sequence correctly. The Guardian nodded solemnly. Your sacrifice will be honored. Your consciousness will join ours in the Great Watch, until the day the cold ones finally fade into true death. They worked quickly, saying their goodbyes to the surface team, making them swear to keep the truth hidden. The world wasn't ready to know what lay beneath the Arctic ice, or the price paid to keep it contained. As the final sequence initiated, Raven and Marcus stood before the Guardian, watching through the viewport as the ship began its descent into the depths. The cold ones raged against their strengthened prison, but the combined power of human determination and alien technology proved stronger. See you in a few thousand years, Marcus said softly, taking Raven's hand as the freezing process began. The Guardians' light enveloped them as their consciousness merged with the ship's systems. Their last human thoughts were of the world above, the world they had sacrificed everything to protect. Deep beneath the Arctic ice, ancient horrors continued to slumber, watched over by their tireless guardians, both alien and human. And on the surface, the mystery of the vanished research team became just another Arctic legend, hiding a truth too vast and terrible for the world to know. The Horizonte returned to port empty of answers but full of questions. The official story spoke of a tragic accident, of unstable ice and poor timing. But on dark nights, when the aurora borealis dances across the Arctic sky, some say they can feel a pulse beneath the ice, the heartbeat of an ancient vessel and its eternal guardians, standing watch against terrors that must never wake.